I guess by way of prologue, the other day I was talking with a friend who found himself in rather daunting circumstances. He is very closely involved with community affairs on his college campus, and in the last year there has been a marked rise in the incidence of hate crime. Now, I know that hate crime is a contentious term for some, but the fact that you know what I'm talking about when I use the word hate crime means the term has served its purpose. He is scrambling to try to figure out some effective means of mitigating this situation, because it has all of the indications of a trend that doesn't stop, and that isn't going to stop on its own. And in point of fact, had a friend, brought in another friend who is a very, very competent statistician, and it's a good thing he's a competent statistician because that's his job, who brought kind of a broader picture to the issues that we were approaching, by and large, anecdotally. And if anything, the bigger picture looked quite a bit worse than what we were looking at. In the region in question, there has been about an 11% reduction in total violent crimes committed over a span of the last 2 years. But the rate of hate crime has been increasing in exactly the same proportion. The total number of violent crimes is going down, but the number of hate crimes is going up at almost exactly the same rate. We rallied the troops on this one and got various folks with various areas of expertise in to talk about this aspect of strategy, that aspect of kind of a large-scale campaign, and deliberating the question, my friend deliberating the question of how much of this he was actually willing to take on, because it was looking very much like a big job, because, well, having an impact almost always is a big job. But it got me thinking. One of the aspects that we were discussing of the solution was increased awareness training on the campus regarding tolerance, regarding sensitivity, basically how to get along with people who are not like you. And in the course of talking about that, of course, we went through the whole tolerance versus acceptance debate, how to hold on to your individual beliefs, but still deal with people who contradict those beliefs in a respectful way. Pretty old hat. But in the course of this, a question popped out in my mind. Why? Why is tolerance good? Why is this a good thing? Why is being able to deal well with people who think differently than you or live differently than you, why is that a good thing? And there are scads of answers to that question. And I'm well aware that there are scads of answers to that question. It can be answered on moral grounds. It can be answered on empathetic or sympathetic grounds. It can be addressed on kind of a moral pragmatism, utilitarian grounds. That it's a good way of avoiding trouble. But here's the catch. Those explanations are already in place, and I think it's fair to say most people are in some degree already aware of them. People whose behavior that explanation is going to positively influence, it already has. The people that kind of explanation is going to result in modified behavior, they already have modified their behavior. They are not the problem. You know, I mean, you see, you kind of see the issue. The nets that we use have caught the fish that they're going to catch. They already have. They already have caught the fish that they're going to catch. So reapplying the same solutions, re-proposing the same truisms, reteaching the same lessons, is not necessarily going to have an impact on those persons reapplying these existing solutions with the expectation that it's going to work this time on the people that we already know, that we already demonstrably know this did not influence, this did not bring about the desired behavior, strikes me as incredibly foolish. So the question that kind of brings me back to my question of why. Why is this good? Why is it necessary? And in particular, can it be proposed? Can it be explained that this is necessary in such a way as to speak to those persons who are not swayed by immediate sense of functionalism, or people who are not swayed by the moral argument? Well, one of the large problems with moral justifications for these sorts of things is that we are very adept at proposing exceptions to our moral absolutes. You know, that we believe that people should generally treat other people in this way, right? We all agree. We all agree. Everybody, pretty much everywhere, for the entirety of human history as we've been able to observe it, have believed that there's just a baseline level of decency that you should apply to other people, except those guys. You know, like as soon as the universal is proposed, we start throwing in the exceptions. We say we should treat human beings this way. Well, they're not quite really human, are they? And go about means of proposing means of exempting people from these universally applied behaviors. So the ethical grounds has problems. The intuitive, empathetic foundation has issues as well, and that's kind of rough for me, because that's sort of my moral center. My moral epicenter is kind of based around the way that I experience other persons, and the way that I experience the pain of other persons, and I don't like inflicting it because it's unpleasant to me. So that's one of my I guess one of the pillars of my moral identity. And the problem with that one is that it is almost impossible to teach. You know, it is almost impossible to reliably instill in other persons what is, for all intents and purposes, an ongoing moral intuition. You can't teach that, or at the very least, the best means of teaching that we have been able to codify is observing a set of circumstances where those sorts of intuitions seem to occur more frequently, and putting people in those sets of circumstances and hoping for the best. You know, it's kind of like trying to teach English grammar, by pushing a kid into a pool that happens to be filled with PhD candidates. You know, we shove them into the same pool with all of these brilliant, well-spoken, and grammatically correct individuals, but and it's bound to rub off, right? That's more or less the way that we teach morality. That is more or less the way that we try to instill moral intuition or moral conscience. So obviously I take some issues with that approach. Not because I think it is wrong, but for crying out loud, I mean, can't we come up with anything better? You know, can't we do any better than just than shoving a student into a pool in which a brilliant person is swimming? A foundation on which to justify the necessity of decent intrapersonal behavior, other than the moral, other than the intuitive, and other than the immediately utilitarian, because the results of the utilitarian approach is that we a number of things. One, we cultivate a deep sense of interpersonal alienation that way. That our interactions with other persons are entirely circumscribed by these at least self-perceived as artificial standards of behavior that have no correspondence to our actual internal state. They have nothing to do with what is going on inside us, and as a result of that, they are alienating. Our connections with other persons become an ongoing process of preemptive crisis management, and we do not communicate, nor do we seek to have communicated to us any significant information regarding internal states. So there are problems with that approach as well. I think, and I hope you'll at least hear me out on this. I think that we can justify the necessity of skilled intrapersonal engagement and interpersonal conduct on the grounds of technological necessity, technological imperative.